if elected, will the double homicide investigation change?
Change in what manner?
Any manner. I mean, ramp up, move, whatever.
There are people that work this, as I said before, that is a top priority case for not just me, it's for the entire sheriff's department, it's for the Indiana State Police, it's mostly for the families, the Williams family, the German family. They are what drives us every day. And things are very positive. I'll leave it at that. Things are very positive right now. Nothing would change. We bring people in. We have help. Things are going well. Nothing would change.
It will ramp up. I will tell you that. I know Tony said that nothing will change. Something will change with me.
He's from the Lafayette Police Department. I wish we had their budget. I wish we had their manpower. I wish we had their toys. But when it all boils down to it, it's not necessarily what the sheriff of the county wants. It's about the people that hold the money of the county. The county council determines what money we're going to get. I wish we could do things at the scale that Lafayette does. We have 13, including the sheriff. When Mark goes to a scene, Mark has more than 13 people helping him investigate crimes. We rely on the Indiana State Police for the bigger investigations. That's the difference. I like Mark. Mark's a nice guy, but Mark doesn't know the small-time sheriff's department budget. We scrape by, and we do a very, very, very good job with what we're given. Each and every one of us give our all to all you people, everybody that's not here. We don't work here because it's the money. We work here because we love Carroll County, and that's the only difference. He gets a lot of things the easy way in Lafayette. They're in a concrete jungle. We're out here in rural Indiana doing things good.
Wish no further. I have the resources that I have now, that training, that experience, at a moment's notice. Memorandum of understanding is available, and we can use them anytime we need. I've worked that out as I started to run, as currently as it is. They have no issue coming to help. Our drug task force is here in Carroll County quite a bit. Yeah, we do have a bigger budget. We should have a bigger budget. We have a lot more funds to deal with. But the training is easy. Those trainers are willing to come to Carroll County because they want to. A couple of those guys actually live in Carroll County, so pretty easy to get some training, free training, because any of those trainers want to make everyone better. Because when they're better, we're better.
Thanks. Tony, you want to about it?
The training, we get the training. I don't want anybody in this room to think we don't get good training. There were classes that were supposed to be coming to Lafayette Police Department. They have their own training facility. I sent email after email trying to get a response from, I said, it's a training coordinator guy, and couldn't even get an email back. Sure, you have those contacts with them. We have good training, we get good training, and if we can't do it ourselves, we go find it.
Going along with the budget things that you said, one person in the community emailed me and said there's been a lot of talk about deputies not having proper equipment, such as body cams, which may have helped them save from current lawsuits. The current sheriff and chief deputy both have expensive trucks that are not necessary for their positions. This person wants to know, are you going to continue that practice if you're elected? Or would you move the money around so that the deputies have proper equipment and not not drive an expensive vehicle?
The deputies, what they need to help you comes first, not what the sheriff needs, not what a chief deputy needs. For the record, I had nothing to do with any of the vehicles that I drive. Those were all previously bought before I got here. But the priority goes with the guys that are out on the road, the boots on the ground. They're the guys that need the proper equipment, and that's the way it should be.
And I think this person wants to know, when it comes to budget time, you know, and maybe you're due for a new vehicle or something, are you gonna choose something pretty expensive like what is now there? Or would you downsize so that that money in the budget could be used for equipment?
Absolutely, absolutely. Whatever, it's not about the expense for the sheriff or the chief deputy in the sense of they shouldn't have the expensive things. It should be what is needed for the road guys.
Tony, and this is from the community, some of these others are, but we have lost 2 of the detectives working on the double homicide with only you remaining. I don't know that that's a true statement, that only you are remaining. But how will the void be filled if you're elected?
Are they saying we've lost 2 detectives, Carroll County detectives?
Yeah. And if you're elected, it's the assumption that you will lead that investigation as well on the level that you're at right now.
Correct. I will still remain involved with that,
Yeah.
but the core of the general core of this investigation group would stay, and we would just incorporate one of our guys into that and get them up to speed. And actually, that's not always a bad thing. Someone coming in, it always has that opportunity to see something that maybe there wasn't seen in the beginning to start with.
Mm-hmm.
You're right, spending is the issue. Spending is an issue when it's not placed upon the right things. Why in the last several years body cameras haven't been a priority is beyond me. I, as a detective, as a plainclothes detective, have a body camera. I'm supposed to use that every day when I'm having interactions with the public. The officers are mandated. That is part of the SOP, the standing operating procedure of our department, to have those and have those in use every single day with every police contact that we have. Spending, again, is the issue. I can't speak for what the commissioners have spent their money on, but I think that if the commissioners would and were able to communicate better with the sheriff and the deputies to see what their needs are, I think that's where the problem lies, communication.
But yes, we have to reach out. I'm an instructor. There are things that we can do. We have firearms instructors, there's emergency vehicle operations. We are very self-sufficient, but you can't do it all. There's no homicide training that we can give each other. There's no crime scene training that we can do, any of that stuff. So we reach out and go to trainings all the time that are not within the department. Just to clarify too, just the other night, I worked 9 to 2 in the jail after I'd worked all day. I went back and worked at the jail from 9 to 2. That's what I do.
We're going to tell stories. We can do that.
Tony.
Yeah, I kind of, in a sense, talk about my plan. The biggest problem at the Sheriff's Department right now is staffing. We have to figure out staffing. We have a lot of these goals. We'd like to be more proactive, absolutely. But if the staffing's not there to do it, we're in trouble. So that'll be, if that's not fixed, that'll be one of my first things that I want to do is get us bolstered back up so we can respond to everything, be more proactive, and do those things. Second off, I want to start getting the equipment in that we need, the body cameras. You can start applying for grants and do things like that. So yes, I have a plan, but really it boils down right now it's staffing.
So if that's the plan, but you don't control that because the money is controlled by the commissioners and the council on pay raises, hiring people. How do you plan on doing that?
We gotta recruit, you gotta go out and find, we have to find
How do you recruit
people.
with no money?
No, you can do it without money. You have to go out. This school right here is a resource. There's a police class that happens here. You can go to Ivy Tech, there's a police course that happens down, law enforcement class that happens down there. You have to do that. And I don't know them specifically, Tippecanoe County, but these other places are offering $5,000 sign-on bonus and things like that. I'm not gonna be able to do that. The council's not gonna even remotely go for that. I'm not sure if they're gonna bump our pay up so we don't lose people to Delphi and Flora. But that is the first thing that needs shored up in the jail. Because if we don't have jail officers to take care of the inmates, you're not gonna have road guys either. Because the road guys are gonna be in the jail doing what I did the other night. So, there is a plan, I do have a plan. That is the first thing that needs to happen, is get the staffing under control.
My understanding is that you were promoted into second command. So why are we waiting? Why are we waiting for you to take office before we start?
Like I said in the beginning, I went into chief deputy because of one of the primary, so the sheriff said, we might as well bring you on board to start learning more sheriff things. I still have cases that I'm working. I'm a detective first. I have a high profile case that we're working hard on every day. I don't have any, I can make all kinds of suggestions and do those things. It's still out of my hands regardless. But I'm still primarily, my job duties are detective. I've done that. Y'all just talked about all the guys that are backing me. I've created that culture for me. Well, again, I won't speak to current administration, but we have that culture. They want to work hard. They want to do that for me.
But shouldn't they want to do that for the citizens of the county?
Right, no, I 100% agree. But why can he say that, create a culture? I'm telling you, that culture's already there.
Yeah, but you said for you, so that's why I just wanted to make sure that people understand it's not about serving you, it's about
Right.
serving the community.
Mark said that he would create a culture around him, and I'm just saying, that culture is there.
That's addressing you.
Yeah, I was not allowed to do anything out in that scope, and I was told when I was demoted that he would be doing those things. How come I was never given that opportunity to do those things? Because it gave a false impression that other people could. And Tony himself is still not doing those things. He's still going down to Fan Coast and working that investigation. There was things going on during those times where they would have meetings in his office where the current sheriff was having meetings with him, preparing him before the primary was even done. And if anybody don't believe that, you got something wrong.
Mike, is there a question in there? Nope. Okay, Paul?
What can you do? What can you come up with for us to help you? Grant writing. Does anybody in here know how to write grants?
Oh, okay, why don't you let him talk? Yeah.
What could you do if we can't get more taxes because we can't lose any more policemen?
So-
what can you do to get us to help?
Just so we're clear, and I think you understand this, 2 people on a good night, if one of them takes a vacation day or is sick, we're down to 1 guy. During the day currently, the sheriff works, I work, and then you have 2 road guys. So I'm doing detective stuff and Toad's doing sheriff stuff, so you still have just 2 guys. But so right now, with the jail staff being short, we have to go do transports. So the guys are coming off the road to come to the jail to take guys to court, sitting in court and then coming back. I mean, it's critical. I spoke to a councilman today. Something needs to be changed. It's about communication, but it's about being passionate. It's about making sure they understand, just like I think it clicked with you, that we need more than just 2 guys on the road. We can section them off to different parts of the county if we have more officers, but we have 2. So
Here,
A lot of this is manpower issues, I realize that. Tony has said that. I know they're down. Got to recruit and get those officers in here. If there are funds available, make them available so we can hire more people. It's an officer safety issue, like Becky said. When you have 2 people going to a call that maybe 3 or 4 because you've got numerous people. You heard him. I can give you his number if you want. I have it. Call him and make that appropriate.
Call my brothers on the council too, please. I'm for it.
And the problem, it is a problem that we only have 2 guys on duty. But the immediate problem, the stuff that I was talking to Paul about, and I'll talk to all of them about it. The problem is that we're gonna lose what we have. We're gonna lose the guys that are trained. We're gonna end up having to have long hiring processes, and I'm being extreme, so take it, but it's gonna be back in the days when there was a sheriff and a deputy working, and those 2 people are gonna be training the new guys, because people are gonna be in the jail working. We can't keep the jailers. It's pretty critical right now.
Tony, this is for you. So back in 20, you said that you checked on body camera prices. So I'm sitting here and I found all kinds of grants just sitting here. So I'm kind of curious as to why you.
My job as a detective, I was asked to look at and get quotes for the sheriff for body cameras. I did what was asked for me, I gave them to the sheriff. That's what I was asked to do.
You stated, Mark, that you were going to create a culture of excellence. Can you explain the difference, both of you, between that and the Good Old Boy Network?
Maybe you want to start, please? Oh, wait, did you want Mark to start? Okay. Go ahead, John.
So I think, you guys all clap on the good old boy thing. There's nobody that wears a blue shirt that has any animosity towards Mark. I feel like I broke the good old boy nonsense. I'm not from here, and my family's not from here. I came here when I was 8 years old, and now I'm standing up here, won the primary for the Republican Party to be the sheriff of Carroll County. I broke that mold. My family's not here helping me. They live clear in southern Indiana. A culture of excellence is getting people to follow you, to do what it takes to make Carroll County safe, and excel at doing it. There's no good old boy. I'm not the good old boy.
Okay. First thing is, it's been said, both of you had said, grants that are out there. How, as sheriff, are you going to go about getting those grants? I know, body camera grants. I know Homeland Security has grants that are available for sheriff's departments, first responders, that type of thing. What are you going to do to go out there and pursue those grants?
Tony?
Once you find those grants, I don't think it's too difficult to file for them. Might be a little bit of legwork. They need some information about the background of the county and what number is this and what number is that. But I don't think it's that difficult to write the grant. They're pre-formatted, you just fill in the blank. So once you find them, I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Why hasn't it been done?
How would you find them, Tony?
Well, there's all kinds of websites. People send us stuff currently that says there's this grant, there's this Criminal Justice Institute grant. They tell us.
I've been at the budget hearings, and I heard today, I think, I'm just going to go ahead and say, the sheriff came in today and spoke to the council. It was a public meeting, so I feel justified in saying this. He was saying, yeah, we need the money, but then the other statement he made was, depending on the outcome of this election, we're having a mass exodus from the county, from the sheriff's department. Now, that's the comment that got made to the council. I was sitting there when it was made. How would either of you trying to handle that or prevent it or whatever? I don't care. Tony, I guess
You mean to prevent a mass exodus?
Try.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
The only thing that's gonna cause people to leave, it's not Mark Pinker. We don't have a problem with Mark Pinker. The thing that's gonna cause people to leave is it's Delphi City starting off at $9,000 more a year. It's Flora starting off at I don't know the exact number, but it's like $9,000 more a year. 20% that they're talking about, I don't even think gets us to that level. So there's no.
Gets it close.
Let's make this clear. Nobody's mass exiting if Mark Pinker wins. If the sheriff said that, you'll have to talk to him. But I'm assuring you, if people leave, it's because they can't pay their bills, and they can no longer protect Carroll County adequately. If we're jailing, we can't protect you. That's why people will leave. It's not Mark Pinker. Oh, absolutely. I attend the Methodist church out here, right behind here. God needs to be in the jail.
Well, I got a question. You're the chief deputy. Why aren't you pushing that? Why aren't you doing something to get them back in there?
Again, I do detective stuff. If I don't, no, Sue, listen to me. Don't shake your head, please. Just give me a second to answer you. You want me to solve this case. You want me to solve this case. But then you also say, why aren't you pushing for this? Why aren't you? I'm in a no-win situation, so I do the best that I can.
And I'm not pointing this just directly at you.
We just did.
Why not? What I'm saying is, chief deputy, you can't just be a detective all the time. If you took over the chief deputy's job, you need to be doing that part of it too. How is there enough time in the day for you to have family and to do both jobs?
Thank you. Amen.
I understand where
Amen.
you're coming from. But why can't you assign someone or take volunteers, somebody that you can verify that would be safe to come into the jail, to give programs and to help teach the people? And there's all kinds of programs out there. I keep hearing grants. Well, there's this kind of programs out there too that nobody is even touching. And those inmates are sitting in there thinking about, okay, when I get out, what can I do to not get caught the next time? Okay.
Sue, I'm on board with that. Sue, I'm absolutely on board with that. Just because I'm chief deputy doesn't mean your husband was sheriff. That doesn't mean I can change what Toad thinks.
I agree with that.
Okay,
But if you have influence-
so I have a pretty high-profile case that I'm working on. I'm the only detective now. I do the best that I can for everybody that I can. So,
Would you continue that policy of the current administration of not allowing the chief deputy to do chief deputy jobs? I mean, you got a bump in pay when you took that job, right?
ever so slightly.
Whatever,
Like, we're talking ever so slightly.
But would you continue the policy of the current sheriff of not letting the chief deputy do chief deputy stuff?
Absolutely not. I don't know that is his policy. I've not seen that as a written policy, but it's spread the love when it comes with me. I need you to help me do this. I need you to help me do this. And not just put everything on one person.
Becky?
Okay. It's obvious we're short-staffed. Mark, you have said over and over that there's help there waiting to help us. Win, lose, or draw. I don't care which one wins. Are you still willing to help our county? And are you willing to accept help for our county?
Imagine being a Lafayette police detective with a full caseload. I run anywhere from 25 to 30 cases on my dashboard. every day, and more of them coming in every day.
But you were saying there were groups waiting to help. Are those groups still willing to help if you're not sheriff?
Yes, the groups that I'm speaking about have been turned down for help.
Tony,
The groups have not been turned down. The groups that, if we're talking about drug task force, that when we have things that need work in the drug task force realm, we contact state police. State police is working with Lafayette, Tippecanoe County. Regardless, I don't have a problem with Mark, Lafayette Police, but I don't have a problem with Lafayette Police Department, Tippecanoe County. We're all good old boys. All of us are good old boys, and we will help in whatever way we need.
I'm not a good old boy.
And I know, and I'm called for it. If there's something I need, and it deals with Lafayette, I call Mark. And the same thing, if something that happens in Carroll County, he needs me, he calls me. That's how it works. I'm not an adversary with Mark Pinkert or Lafayette or anybody. We're all gonna work together all the time. If we need something, Lafayette will send guys from their drug task. It's not adversarial. It really is not.
Other questions? Oh, thank you.
Okay.
on this, you said that help has been refused. Why?
I don't know what help he's talking about.
There have been agencies that have offered help to different cases. Won't get into which cases they are. TBI for one of them, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. They have wanted to help.
So I think that one of the questions earlier was about whether or not we're a politician or a public servant. In my conclusion notes right here, one of the first sentences, when I decided to run for sheriff, one of the biggest hurdles I knew I was going to have is that I'm not a politician. I'm a public servant. I'm no different than anyone in this room, other than I feel like I've excelled in my law enforcement career, and I feel like I'm the best choice for the next Carroll County Sheriff. That's it.
With my training, skill, and ability, not only do I have the training, but I use it on a daily basis. The skill comes with using the training on a daily basis. Been a polygraph examiner for criminal cases for a number of years. I have the training that we don't have to spend thousands of dollars from this county because I've already got it. I have training that's no longer available from the FBI, from the Secret Service. I've been in Hoover, Alabama to do some amazing things with computers. The team of people that I have worked with for a number of years fully back me. I know Tony says the deputies back him. I would fill this room with supporters from my department. I know that. I have trained the trainers that have trained these guys. For that reason, I'm your independent candidate for sheriff. Make sure that when you vote, you don't have to choose. That choice will be taken from you if you choose a party. Go through and look for the best candidate, and when you do that, you're going to find me as your independent candidate. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
Introduce a few people that are standing behind me before we get started here. You got Lieutenant Tom McKee from the Indiana State Police Post at Lafayette, Tony Liggett, sorry, from the Delphi, Carroll County Sheriff's Department. I'll get to this right here in a minute. Kevin Hammond from the Carroll County Sheriff's Department, Jerry Holman from the Indiana State Police Detectives out of the Lafayette State Police Post, and Tony Slocum, he's a Public Information Officer out of the Peru Post. Tony Liggett, sorry, from the Delphi, Carroll County Sheriff's Department. I'll get to this right here in a minute.
So here's a top 10 list, if you're really paying attention, of when the Delphi Murders Investigation Task Force made attempts to control the narrative as a means to divert attention away from the many, many mistakes that they've made over the course of 6 years. Coming in at number 10, Old Guy Sketch being released in July of 2017. 5 months after a photographic image and audio of Bridge Guy was already released, the investigation says, when you see the photograph, look at it and see this. At number 9, Young Guy Sketch, revealed at the 2019 press conference, 2 years after Old Guy Sketch, where again, law enforcement is saying, wait, no, when you see the photograph, we actually want you to see this instead. Number 8, Young Guy Sketch versus Old Guy Sketch. Despite the 2019 sketch being released after the Old Guy Sketch chronologically, the Young Guy Sketch was drawn first, days after the murders, while Old Guy Sketch was drawn months later. Law enforcement just decided on their own arbitrarily to release either or according to the narrative they wanted to pursue at the time. At number 7, Young Guy Sketch versus Old Guy Sketch, round 2. Immediately after the 2019 press conference, the investigation task force sends out a bulletin clarifying that the 2 sketches released to this point in the investigation are a depiction of 2 separate individuals. While Doug Carter is not entirely clear on this in the press conference itself, simply referring to the previous sketch as being secondary, a month later on a podcast, Doug Carter would in fact clarify that both sketches are meant to represent the same individual.
But remember, a sketch is not a photograph. Right. It's something similar to a resemblance. The likelihood of this being something between the two is probably pretty strong. But again, that's a subjective opinion based upon what I believe.
Number 6, Anthony Shots. In late 2021, out of nowhere, yet again, law enforcement releases a public service announcement where they attempt to imply that perhaps a catfishing account was used to lure the girls to the trails on the days of the murders, even though they had already denied this in previous communications to the public. So for a year, the case narrative is completely hijacked by focusing on the creator of the fictitious account, which was Keegan Kline and potentially his father, both of whom are now known to be entirely unrelated to the case. Number 5, Tony Liggett capriciously changing the description of Bridge Guy in spring of 2022. Tony Liggett just out of nowhere decides to have the height and weight and general description of Bridge Guy altered on the FBI website. Number 4, early Facebook posts from law enforcement asking for a specific time frame of 1 to 3:30 in the context of Dan Doolin's missing tip from his lost interview with Richard Allen. How is it that early Facebook posts from the investigation were soliciting information about people being at the trails from 1 to 3:30, and for years they were looking for that one piece of information that would help them break the case wide open? And lo and behold, almost 6 years after the girls were murdered, immediately before sheriff's election and a day after the former sheriff deputy sues Carroll County, a tip regarding the exact time frame in question leads to the arrest of an 11th hour suspect. Convenient. Number 3. In 2022, the Richard Allen PCA totally excluding information from the juvenile witnesses. The juvenile witnesses by Freedom Bridge saw other men that day who were known to be there that fit the description of who they saw and who law enforcement now chooses to interpret as Richard Allen. Why was this not included in the application for the probable cause affidavit to Judge Diener? Number 2, the 12:30 to 1:30 versus the 1:30 to 3:30 time discrepancy. Tony Liggett, in his probable cause affidavit, claims that in 2022, he came across a tip narrative from Dan Doolin from 2017, whereby shortly after the murders, Allen requested a meeting with Doolin to tell him about what he saw that day, and in that interview, Doolin claims Allen says he was at the trails from 1:30 to 3:30. Although Doolin cannot prove that this was said because he seems to have lost the recording or notes of any proof that this timeline was explicitly stated by Allen in 2017, Tony Liggett felt it necessary to invite Allen to Carroll County Sheriff's Office to confirm this and other details in fall of 2022. In his PCA, Liggett claimed that Allen confirms Doolin's timeline claim from 2017. However, the recording obtained by Richard Allen's defense team seems to imply that Allen never confirms Doolin's claim that he was there from 1:30 to 3:30 and instead maintains he was there from 12 to 1:30. And number 1, Tony Liggett completely misrepresenting what he was told by witnesses Sarah Carbaugh and Betsy Blair in his PCA application to Judge Diener in 2022. That the prosecution's own 2-star witnesses in the Delphi murders investigation dispute the claims made in the Richard Allen affidavit attributed to them. While the Richard Allen PCA claims Sarah Carbaugh told Tony Liggett in 2017 that she saw a man matching the description of a man on Libby's phone dressed in a blue jacket covered in blood and mud walking down 300 North, a road adjacent to the crime scene, Upon interviewing Mrs. Carbaugh in 2023, Richard Allen's defense team discovers some of these details are wrong and or outright fabricated. Ms. Carbaugh insists that she saw a man covered in mud, but not blood, and that he was wearing a tan-covered jacket, not blue. Similarly, Betsy Blair, during her interview with the defense in 2023, contends that in 2017, she told Tony Liggett she saw a younger male with poofy hair on the first platform where the girls were last seen alive on the Monon High Bridge, who looked nothing like the man in Libby's video and certainly did not resemble Richard Allen. That didn't stop Tony Liggett in his PCA submission to Judge Diener from completely misconstruing what he was told by Mrs. Blair to get his essentially false arrest approved. These guys have been doing this for a long time, man. They'll do it as a policy, and they're crooked as hell. They craft a narrative to suit their own interests, and they do it with impunity.
So let's take a look at the earliest stages of this police investigation here. I'm hearing a lot of discussion, and I mean a lot of discussion regarding Richard Allen putting himself near the crime scene or being on the trail that day, very near to where both Abigail Williams and Liberty German were found murdered. So did this individual actually insert himself into this police investigation? So let's assume for one moment that this information is factual, that Richard Allen inserts himself into this investigation at a very early stage. What are the possible consequences to the investigation as a whole? Well, if the police are looking at this case, they've discovered the crime scene, they've discovered the bodies of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. The first thing they're going to be doing is looking for witnesses, looking for people who are on the trail that day. Their initial suspicions are going to be drawn to the people who actually don't come forward. Let's say, for instance, they identify around 50 individuals who are on the trail. If they have, say, they can clear 40 of these individuals but have 10 left, naturally the focus is going to be on the individuals who don't come forward to volunteer their presence near to the crime scene. But when we compare and contrast this to the behaviour of Ron Logan, the behaviour of these two individuals, there's a massive stark difference here. If Richard Allen has come forward and said, yep, I was there between whatever times he said he was, he had a plausible reason for being there maybe, and we combine that with Ron Logan's behaviour, an individual who's actually trying to distance himself from the crime scene when the crimes actually took place, then naturally your focus is going to be drawn to that particular individual. What this does not explain, however, is why it has taken almost 6 years to come full circle back towards Richard Allen. And the reason that I say that is because, quite naturally, we have this video, don't we? We have the video of the man walking across the bridge. Surely FBI would have dedicated quite a lot of resources to this particular video. Not just a description in terms of this man's facial features, but they're able to gauge a height from this individual, what he is wearing. This was a small individual, someone who's wearing oversized jeans. I mean, these are the first things that sort of strike you really about this particular video, is the guy's height and his clothing. Yet they've gone completely off of this individual who come forward at a very early stage. Now, all I can think of is that law enforcement had it in their head that there's no way that the killer's going to come forward. There's no way that the killer's going to come forward and place himself near the scene of the crime. They must have had that somewhere in their mind. They were looking for someone who was being elusive, someone that was hiding or hiding in plain sight, someone who's not going to be bold enough to come forward and actually put themselves at the scene of the crime when this crime took place. Also regarding the video, we have the voice, don't we? And I remember very early on in this case that we had a lot of heightened discussion regarding what his voice could tell us. It sounds gruff, it sounds like he's a drinker, it sounds like he's a smoker. Look at how he's walking across the bridge. This is someone who's had a drink. Now, I never really bought into all of that sort of stuff because, you know, there's too many variables there, and especially due to the deterioration of the bridge, I always put the walk down to the fact that this guy was walking and his leg turns because he's repositioning, you know, he doesn't want to fall through the bloody bridge, does he? You know, that's basically what I put it down to when I view that clip of the man on the bridge, not so much that he may have had a drink. Another one of the more common questions that most people asked when they saw this man walking across the bridge and we had the discovery of the bodies of these two girls is, what exactly was this man's plan that day? Was this an abduction that went wrong? Was this an assault that went wrong? Did these two girls try to escape and they were subsequently murdered? Did this individual lose control? Murder was maybe not the first thing on his mind. We need to remember here that this guy most likely, at least in terms of his facial features, isn't wearing any kind of disguise when he is approaching the girls. He's not wearing a mask. He doesn't appear to be wearing any kind of wig or anything across his face. So this was an individual who most likely had murder on the mind from the very outset. And quite clearly the reason that I say that is that this individual is approaching these girls and he's not really trying to hide his identity.
Jeff Liggett, or Tony Liggett, sorry, from the Delphi, Carroll County Sheriff's Department. I'll get to this right here in a minute.
I'm wanting to ask you, are we at a point where we need to hire an outside eye to come in and look over this whole investigation to see if there's something that maybe we've overlooked? And we haven't looked at anything, but
give a fresh set of eyes.
Get a fresh set of eyes to looking at this. You know, of course, what I know about law, I see on TV. You know, so I see these cold cases where they come back and a new person looks at it and he finds some little shred here that nobody looked at. I don't know if that's realistic or not, but I'm asking you, is that something that we as commissioners should pursue or authorize money for? Or everybody's wanting to see this done, you know?
Right.
So,
first of all, Commissioner, I'm not offended by that, and I will add that actually early on with the investigation, when I say early, within a year or maybe even months, as I recall, without providing specifics, I will tell you that we did have outside agencies come on board, and when I say outside, I'm talking about professional, public-funded organizations from other states, state investigators come on board and take an outside-in looking approach. And so we've done that already. And to answer your question, is it time to potentially do that again? That's a good point. Yes, I would, personally, I would entertain that idea, but I think that's a discussion we need to have amongst ourselves within our core investigators, rather than, and again, no offense at this point, I'm going to decline your suggestion of at least the funding aspect of it, because I want to hear what the core investigators feel and have that meeting with them, and then if we see potentially, again, bringing outside resources into us that we may need that funding, then I'll be the first back up here again saying, gentlemen, yes, we are going to move forward, and yes, respectfully, we would ask for funding because of that.
Okay.
So but in essence, that's nothing new. Again, we've at least two other outside agencies that I recall who brought them on board and said, hey, take a look at this, see what you think. And they've done that. And as I recall, the feedback, at least during that time period, was that you're on course, you're on the right path. But is it time to answer your question? Is it time again? I would agree that that's reasonable suggestion.
Okay, well, I want you to know that I'm on board with that, and I think my fellow commissioners would want to do everything we can to move this along. And just as a little aside, when this idea first came up to my managers that I had down at West Lafayette, none of them liked it because they all knew everything already. So, well, we had to kind of overrule that and go ahead and bring in it.
And I've always been the type, Bill, that even at the stage of my career, I am still open to new ideas and new thoughts, and I'm not set in my ways, if you will. And so that's why I say. But again, if you can afford me the opportunity, at least have that meeting with our core investigators and say, hey, you know, how can we potentially regroup here? You know, what do we need to do moving forward to, again, maybe provide this fresh set of eyes? So I'm open to that. So
we want to help.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. And for what it's worth, real quick, our total count this morning is 45. 38 are coming back from another facility as I alluded to.
This is why you better believe we're all still watching.
It's time for you guys to start being journalists.
Before an angry Andrew Baldwin left the courthouse, 13 News overheard him speaking to Richard Allen's wife, saying, "It ain't over. The world's watching. The world sees what's going on."
Because the officers were lax about the procedures. Any other judge would dismiss these charges. Not only is the evidence against Richard Allen very weak, and there's 70 days worth of interviews that have just gone missing, they just don't have them, and a bunch of other stuff that's come out in motions yesterday. There's so many problems with this case against Richard Allen, and then we get all this ordinism stuff. Come on. Any self-respecting judge would look at this, the totality of this evidence, and say, come on now, Nick. This can't go forward. You gotta let this guy go. But Nick, you know, he's got friends in low places. Nick, you got to say for yourself, Slicky. What you got to say for yourself, son? Any self-respecting judge would disregard anything Slicky Nicky had to say at this point. He's an absolute disgrace. This trial, if it goes ahead, you're going to get Brad Holder on the stand, Patrick Westfall on the stand, Johnny Messer, Elvis Fields, get them all on the stand. And let's hear them, from their own words, under oath. In Odin, do you still trust, if you're under oath? I've no words. Absolutely diabolical that this is just continuing.
The Westville Correctional Facility is a maximum security prison generally reserved for convicted criminals. Not people like Richard Allen who are awaiting trial. But his attorneys say Allen is being treated as if he's already been found guilty. In their motion, they say Allen is being held alone in a cell no bigger than a dog kennel, forced to wear soiled and tattered clothes, showering only once or twice a week, and not allowed to see his family.
You literally could not trust any verdict that came out of a trial if this continues to be the situation.
You literally could not trust any verdict that came out of a trial if this continues to be the situation.
Everybody is presumed innocent. Everyone is given a chance and a fair opportunity to defend themselves.
Now, Allen's attorneys claim that the Carroll County prosecutor has no objection to Allen being moved. We reached out to him to verify that. We didn't hear back. The attorneys claim also that the Carroll County Sheriff was the one who objected to Allen being moved, which is why they had to file this legal motion. We reached out to him as well. Also, didn't hear back.